Do you love teleporters but hate playing engineer? Do you love the mobility the rocket jumper gives you but wish you could still do effective damage like you could with the other rocket launchers? Are you a masochist for fall damage? If you said yes to any of the following, I have the guide for you. How yinz doing? I'm Ian, and this is my TF2 How to Kill Streak series, where we look at the best and worst TF2 has to offer and show you how to get a kill streak with it, because everything is a bad idea until it works. Today, as Yinz could tell from reading the title of this video, we'll be covering the sticky jumper. So without further ado, let's get into it. The sticky jumper is an unlock for the demo man that replaces your regular sticky launcher, and was added back in 2010 by Valve as a way for players to learn how to sticky jump without getting themselves killed 24/7. As most of you could probably tell at this point, this is the demo man equivalent of the soldier's rocket jumper, giving you an ammo capacity so large that it might as well be infinite, and making it so that your sticky bombs no longer do self-harm to you whatsoever. The only downside being is that they don't do damage whatsoever to enemies as well. At least that's how it used to be once upon a time. However, players would exploit the fact that you could place even more sticky bombs to the sticky jump with than with the other launchers, since you no longer have to worry about blowing yourself up. This meant you could place a bunch of sticky bombs in one big old pile somewhere and effectively use it to teleport to the enemy intelligence room and capture the flag so fast that any resistance you may or may not incur would most likely still be a level 1 sentry in the engineer, meaning you could easily take care of it with just your grenade launcher. Because of this exploit, for a short period of time, the average CTF match actually went from near eternal to about less than 2 minutes. This was such a huge problem, Valve decided to nerf this Nerf gun, by making it so that you can only have 2 stickies out in the world at a time now, and so that players who use this weapon can no longer capture the intelligence on the capture a flag maps anymore. You also can't capture the Australium on the highly underrated Doomsday map, as well as the ball on Pastime, but let's be honest, who plays Pastime? Amusingly, this thing can be crafted with 3 cabers and a reclaimed metal. Presumably, the cabers combine to create an explosion so deadly it goes full circle and becomes harmless, and the metal is just there to hold the whole thing together. However, as always, I recommend either trading or waiting for a random drop if you wish to acquire this item. Now I know what some of yinz might be thinking. If this thing can't do any damage to players, how do I get kills with it?
That's the neat thing. You don't.
You see, the power of this weapon, like the previously covered Bonk Atomic Punch, is not its DPS potential, but rather its ability to get you to places that would otherwise be impossible to reach. One of the more popular tactics you will see with this weapon being implemented is using its power of flight to reach the enemy spawn and blowing up the engineer's teleporter entrance, forcing the enemy team to walk back to the front lines. Or as I like to call it, the Make the Engineer Rage Quit from the Server speedrun challenge. This is also an effective tactic if you want people in the enemy team to switch off of Heavy, since Heavy's low movement speed can be so unbearable for some players that they won't even consider playing him unless they have a teleporter at their disposal. Obviously, if the Heavy that's causing you trouble is a Heavy main, this won't work very well, but just because someone's giving you trouble by playing a counter to whatever you want to play doesn't mean they necessarily main whatever it is that counters you. If you're intent on using this playstyle, I recommend the Lock and Load for its enhanced damage against engineer buildings. However, you'll usually be dealing with a mixture of engineer buildings and actual players. So if you're terrible at landing direct hits with your pipes or would prefer to just have a larger clip size than the 3 the Lock and Load provides, I recommend using either the stock grenade launcher or the Iron Bomber. Pick whichever one hits your preferences better, because honestly these things are apples to oranges in comparison to one another. The loose cannon can be fun if you know how to get double dunks consistently, but if you're serious about getting a kill streak, it's best to be avoided since it's rather slow and clunky compared to the other primaries. I advise against using the base jumper alongside the sticky jumper entirely, since you'll be restricted exclusively to melee. After all, if your plan is just to suicide bomb people with the caber, you can do that just as easily without the base jumper's assistance whatsoever. I also advise strongly against the booties, since the only thing they provide you when using the sticky jumper is a 25 extra health boost. And while increasing your max health can be useful, I just cannot recommend doing so when you're restricted to melee without using a shield. Speaking of melee weapons, I recommend using the stock. This is because, with the exception of the Pain Train and Stock, all of Demo Man's melee weapons have an increased deploy speed, meaning they'll take longer to pull out, and when you're using the Sticky Jumper, you'll find yourself constantly switching between your secondary, primary, and melee weapon slots. After all, the Sticky Jumper can't do damage on its own, but it provides amazing utility, meaning you'll constantly be pulling it out whenever you want to get somewhere fast. However, your primary weapon provides you with ranged damage that can be invaluable when fighting normal players. However, sometimes you might end up blowing yourself up in close quarters, meaning you'll need something to switch to in a pinch, which is where your melee comes into play. You see, Demo Man is one of the few classes in the game where your stock melee is not just an objective downgrade to everything else in your arsenal. It's an amazing utility for any Demo Man player who intends to be switching between their melee slot and other weapon slots with any degree of consistency. Still, I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention the Caber. It's a very popular tactic to use the Caber to suicide bomb other players, which, while it can be fun, is ill-advised for those of you going on a kill streak, since you typically end up dying immediately after getting your kill of choice. As for the Pain Train, well, it lets you cap the point faster, but you take more bullet damage as a result, making it great for those of you who prioritize capturing the objective over actually getting a kill. However, this is a video about getting a kill streak, so I cannot recommend using it whatsoever. When using the Sticky Jumper, I always advise having a few escape stickies on standby just in case things go south so you have an escape route. I also recommend always having 2 sticky bombs on the point when you're capturing it. That way you can retreat to the nearest health pack if things go south, or use them to press forward and finish off any stragglers as you press your advantage to the next objective. However, as powerful as the Sticky Jumper can be, it's not always the best option, especially when playing on choke point heavy maps or when playing on defense in general. The mobility provided by the Sticky Jumper will simply be outclassed by the defensive utility that the other launchers provide. However, if being able to chart the map's skybox with your face sounds like a fun time to you, I cannot recommend this weapon more. Because let me tell you, you will be surprised where you can and can't go with this weapon. All in all, I give the Sticky Jumper a switch 2 out of 10. This is not a weapon you'll want to have on your loadout as you first go out the gates. Rather, it's something you switch to when you see a good opportunity arise. And when those moments come, oh boy, do they come. That's all for now. Like the video if you did, subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one, comment what yins want to see next. I've been Ian, and this has been my TF2 How to Kill Streak guide to the Sticky Jumper. And stay tuned, we have a 2-for-1 on the next video where we'll be covering both the Sandman and the Rap Assassin.